Hey guys, welcome to another video. Thanks for tuning into this one. In this video, we're going to cover some of the important topics that needs to be addressed as we get closer to different assessment dates. Now, one of the things that I like to cover at this point is to tailor my videos to focus more on those that are going for interviews or group exercises and things of that nature. Now, one thing I will say is there's no way I can cover individual questions. And then the other thing to mention at this point is I can't make videos that cover answer interview questions. That is because your story will be different from my story, and your ability to tell your own story is what is really important when it comes to interviews. So it does no good in any way to make a video telling my own story. But one thing I would say is that I would give you all the necessary tips and techniques that you need to hopefully excel. And that's the goal. Okay. So let's get into it. By the way, if you please don't forget to drop a like on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. So like I promised the last time that I would make a complete diagram showing the two flight schools. Now, one thing I need to do is to move this down, draw this to the side. Now, the last video that I covered, I made the topic covering more on the FTE side and what to expect. So I'm not going to go over that again. For Skyborn, or based on what is on Skyborn's website, okay, this is what we can expect. So we have a Skyborn virtual assessment, which would include some of the aptitude tests that will be required. And I believe some of you are already doing that already. And then you have the in-person assessments, which will include the interview. Generally speaking, these are always competency-based interviews. And I think it lasts about 40 minutes or so based on previous experiences. And I know that a lot of times it is important for you to, put your best self out there on that day. It's always kind of very relaxed from what I've heard, but at the same time, it could be a bit difficult because you see everybody that is that are there and you feel like everyone is qualified or more than qualified, right? So that can be very intimidating. And sometimes you would have people that will probe a lot. Okay, I'm talking about interviewers at this point, and they can probe a lot. So make sure you plan yourself well when it comes to these interviews. Like I said, practice goes a long way. Okay, and if you advance through that, then you can get to the BA stage. For FTE, you have a bit more going on the FTE side, but at the same time, you arrive at the same spot. Okay, now, like I mentioned down here, I said something about competency-based interview or Skyborn. If I come to the FTE side, you see the same thing. You do some of the group exercises that will test your competencies, but somewhere along the line, you do the virtual interview, which is right here. This virtual interview always also generally are focused on competency based as well. Now, in addition to, if you guys notice that I have this gray area here, if you're in this gray box belongs to guys that are going on going through the BA assessment stages currently. On this side, however, we have the guys that are going through the Aer Lingus assessment phases as well. And I know that some of you have also been invited to come complete the assessment for that. But one thing I want to draw I intentionally drew all of this out because I want you to see similarities in this assessment with these schools. It is important, or these airlines, okay? It is important to note that at the end of it all, you generally would do group exercises, you do interviews, and you do assessments for all of them. So the point here is, if you are able to prepare really, really well, you can apply the same competencies, the same stories, the same ideas, the same techniques to all of them. And I do have a lot of people that have gone through some of these programs in the past with success. I've had some that that are going through it. And one thing I always tell them is, remember that what you're learning, especially as we do little one-on-ones or maybe just some group stuff, one of the things I always mention is, as we go through all of this, know that the knowledge you're acquiring now will serve you for the future. So put as much effort into this one and you see the rewards even in other areas. Now, one thing, like I mentioned, the competency-based stuff, okay? Now, like I mentioned, competency-based interview for Skyborn. When you get to BA, it's also some competency-based stuff will go on there, so which I haven't put out any information on that just yet. And then here, for virtually for the FTE assessments, you do some competency-based stuff there. For Aer Lingus, you do the interviews, all right, and the group exercise. The interviews include the one-on-one, and then you have the competency-based interview. And I need to zoom in so you can see that better. And competency-based interview are testing for competencies. Okay, now why competency-based interview? And I intentionally put these notes, okay? If you think about it, right, the goal of every airline is to make sure that you have the necessary skills, knowledge, and of course, the ability to do the job. So once you do your written tests, once you do your aptitude tests, you do your interview, right, they are verifying through your interview that you are able to apply some of these competencies. Now, how do they test for those? They use this competency-based style interviewing in which you're asked to tell stories or tell your experiences. And this is where I always say things about CV. I know that this video is not for CV. And by the way, if you're interested in trying to figure out if your CV is good or how to make your CV, I have a link, or I will put a link at the bottom of this video description section for you to see the, you can download the file. Now that file, the current version of that PDF file that you would get if you put in your email and they'll send you the link, the current file you would get is version 1. It is important that you know that it's there for a reason. That is because things are always changing. And as I acquire more information, I would always update that file. It is there for free. Check it out. Now, let's continue with competency-based stuff. As you tell your stories, it is important for you to be able to tell your stories in a way that showcases your ability to communicate, your ability to break down complex subjects or stories into a more effective and storytelling style, if that makes sense. So for example, you may be asked to tell us, for example, if this is an interview, oh, tell us about the time you failed as a leader, or tell us about the time you didn't achieve a goal, or tell us about the time you had to deal with a lot of stuff or workload at the same time, or tell us about the time you had to correct the leader, or tell us about the time you didn't achieve a specific outcome that you desired, or tell us about the time you failed as a teammate, all right? You failed as a team to achieve an outcome. All these questions are usually testing for your competencies, and these competencies are usually geared to show the employer that you have the knowledge and ability to apply some basic competencies. Okay, so let me share with you this competency-based interview. It says this style of interview is based on, let me zoom in a little bit more, is based on the idea that past behavior is the best way to predict future performance, and it is used by employers from all fields and industries. So this is not unique to aviation. That is something that you should be aware of. But your ability to be able to use some of the aviation terms, some of the aviation pilot competencies during your answers will score you points. So think about it in that way. Even though this competency-based interview is used in different industries all around the world, your ability to be able to understand some of the aviation concept, risk management, customer service, aeronautical decision making, problem solving, situational awareness, all these concepts, right? Your ability to put them to use and tie them into your stories is something that requires practice, requires some guidance. And I hope that you've been benefiting from all of this through my videos. All right, the next one here is competency-based interview questions allow interviewers to evaluate how a candidate has performed in different situations in the past. Okay, and it is important to understand that when you tell your stories, you are not just telling the story because you had this fantastic experience or you had this fantastic skill. You have to understand that you're telling the story so that the interviewer can get to see how you are as a person, especially in the light of the competencies they are asking about. Let me go over that again so that it doesn't go over your head. Okay. The reason why you're telling your stories isn't because the interviewer just wants to hear an interesting story about you. They are asking the stories so that they can tick the necessary items of competencies that they are testing for to make sure that you as a person have that competency and the ability to use it, because they are hiring you for a job as a pilot that will require those competencies, and you must be able to apply those competencies on that job. So I hope that this makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's continue. Their answers, okay, that means you as a candidate, their answers give insight into their personality. So you as a candidate, the answers you give will give an insight into your personality, traits, and how they might act, you as a person, how you might act if hired, allowing the employer to make a more informed decision during the hiring process. So when you are telling your stories, you have to understand that it takes a lot of effort to make sure your story is well structured, it is well put together, it includes the competencies, it includes the details that will give the person listening the ability to tell that, okay, this candidate has got it. Let's move to the next thing. Now, we can talk about the psychology of interviewing. And I don't want to make this video too long, because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are driven by emotions, things we see, the way we feel, the things we hear, right? We have all these things calling for our attention. So when you are interviewing, you have some job to do. And that job really revolves around your ability to, of course, communicate well, and of course, hit the nail on the head when it comes to the competencies that we talk about a lot, but also to be able to break down the barriers of your effort. Okay, and you probably wonder, what barriers am I talking about? Let me give you an example. Biases or bias, okay, are some of the barriers you have to face. For example, me interviewing someone, okay, I have my own biases. I may see somebody and have a bias and say, you know what, maybe this person may not be the right fit. Not because the person has done anything wrong, just because I just didn't like the person. That happens. Or let me give you another example. On my way to work, somebody pissed me off. Maybe I got into a minor fender bender or an accident or something like that. I'm already having a bad day. And then I'm coming to interview you. What do you think would happen during that interview? Or another example is, I have a lot of trouble going on in my finances or in my home, or just those other things that are way outside of your control. And this is the person that will be interviewing on that day. Now, I will tell you though, it is easy to say that these people are trained, and that's what the airline will tell you. These people are trained, they put their biases to check. But the truth is, they are human beings. They are not perfect. Sometimes you talk to people, you listen to their accent. I have an accent. I know that some of you may struggle to understand some of the things I say, but that is just how life is. People are from all over the world. Your ability to put your biases to the side and actually just listen to what I'm saying is way more important than your biases. And that is the way you need to condition yourself as well. In the sense, you as a student know that, or as a candidate, you as a candidate know that your ability to break down those barriers and overcome them is one of the hurdles you will have to face on your interview. And it is very crucial to have done your homework really well in order to succeed. I'll be honest with you, last year was a big eye opener for a lot of people that went through the program that came really close, all right, to getting selected. And a lot of them got offered the self-sponsored pathway. And I know that a lot of you took that as well. And congratulations to you. I'm sure you're probably not watching this video anyway at this point. But that is just to set the expectations for those of you that are going through this again, if you're still watching this video at this time. Because that's another thing that I struggle with. A lot of people, they click away after 3 minutes, after 2 minutes, after 1 minute. It's ridiculous. But that's why I'm here anyway, to share this knowledge. So I'm not going to complain about that. So that is that for that note. Now, what competencies are we talking about? Well, when we talk about competencies, okay, we're talking about professionalism, flexibility, resiliency, adaptability. So that means they can ask you questions in these areas, including things like leadership and teamwork, situational awareness, workload management, communication, and problem solving. All right, or decision making and problem solving. Now, I want to give you guys some notes. Now remember, this is under the Aer Lingus, okay? But let me give you something to keep in mind. In as much as this group exercise is at the top here, and you have these competencies down here, it is important to understand that the way the competencies are tested for are different for a group exercise. In as much as they're testing for these things, they're not asking for you to tell stories. Under the competency-based interview, whether it's for Aer Lingus, whether it's for FTE, whether it's for Skyborne, whether it's for BA, whether it's for any airline, they usually would use the STAR, okay? Situations, tasks, actions, and results. If you want to go the extra mile, add a review to that, okay? So double R, all right, STAR, 2 R's. Add a review to it, what you learned, what you took away, and what has helped you based on that experience that you just shared. That's the review part of it. But let's just leave it at STAR. Don't let us make it complicated. When it comes to your group exercise, which you would do for Aer Lingus, which you would do for FTE, which you would do for BA as well, okay? I think Skyborne wouldn't have to do that. You have to understand that some of these competencies or skills or traits, whatever you want to call them, are being tested for in a different way. For example, how do you test for leadership during a group exercise? Of course, your ability to communicate well is part of the things, which is down here. But demonstrating your ability to lead starts with how you build a rapport with a group or teammates that you have. You may have a group of 4, a group of 3, a group of 2, right? Your ability to build that rapport goes a long way. The next thing, how do you then build a rapport? Introduce yourself. Tell them your name. Tell them where you're from. Okay? Smile while you're talking with your teammates. When you are able to break down those awareness, the self-consciousness of people, where people are so tense and under the pressure that, oh, we're here competing with each other. In a group exercise, that is not what you want. You want everybody to freely communicate, be comfortable, happy, and know that you guys are working towards a common goal. So if you're able to introduce yourself to these people, you are breaking down those barriers and you are winning points along the way. So know your teammates. It is always best you call them by their names. John, Steve, right? Call them by their names so that way it is more personal and there is no confusion. You would earn more points with that. How can you demonstrate? Now remember, this is all about demonstrating your leadership skills. Be organized, all right? If you are in charge of maybe organizing the task or figuring out where to start, your ability to break down this task into an organized or methodical manner goes a long way. So be organized with your approach when you're talking about your task or your scenario. Support and show encouragement. You support your teammates, okay? You show encouragement because remember, you would have the time pressure, you would have the task pressure, you would have the fact that a lot of people are trying to share their opinions and everybody wants to win points. Everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody wants to say something. Now, show your support by giving them the ability to share their opinion, by asking them for their feedback, ask questions that encourage them to participate, okay? Communicate effectively, celebrate success, all right? That's part of it as well, all right? If you're able to achieve something within the time frame, mention it, say it. This is a great success. This is a great achievement. We're able to do this. I'm happy I'm part of this team. When you say things like that, it shows that you are there with the team mindset. And I cover this in my course or class, like put together as well. All right. But let's not try to talk about that now. Be flexible, right? Remember, everybody will have different opinions. So don't try to be the autocratic type person. Be the democratic type person. Try to have that ability to share your opinion and hear other people's opinion and come to a conclusion. All right. Now, the other thing about teamwork when it comes to these group exercises is that you want to make sure you listen more than you actually talk. Okay. Talk. I don't want you to be quiet, but try to listen more so that you have good feedback or good responses. Okay. Don't go off track in what you're saying. A lot of people tend to go off tangent. For example, from my experience, this is what I did. Nobody cares about your experience when it comes to this group exercise. Now, to an extent, but what I mean by that is don't let your conversation derail the group by you bringing in your previous experience or what you did in the past. Rather, focus on the task at hand and apply the necessary skills that needs to resolve it. That's it. Don't go off tangents. When you go off track, off tangent, you lose points. You don't want to do that. Get opinions. Okay, that's another thing as well. Get opinions. I think I already mentioned that already. Be positive. Okay, don't be the type that is trying to rush the group. Don't be the type that is trying to slow down the group. Again, have a good pace, but make sure you keep a positive energy during this whole exercise. The next thing is your mindset goes a long way. Okay, and the reason why mindset goes a long way is the words you use. For example, if you're in a group and you have a group mindset type, right, you're going to be using words like the we, or phrases that includes we accomplished something, or we did this together. We can achieve this goal. We can achieve this task, or we can complete the task in a time frame. By you saying things in that manner, you are bringing on the team on board, and you guys are trying to show that you are working together. Remember, people are observing you. 2 people, 3 people may be observing you. Maybe 1 person may be observing you, and they're taking notes on how you are interacting with the group based on the things you say and don't say. When I say don't say, remember, when you're communicating, we have different means of communication. We have the verbal, the non-verbal ones as well. So your body language, the way you look, the way the demeanor on your face, the demeanor that you carry, those things go a long way. So make sure you have an inclusive type mentality that has to, that works for everybody, that brings everybody together. The next thing is situational awareness. Now, situational awareness goes a long way, and I'm going to come back to T-DOTA as the last thing. All right, situational awareness goes a long way when you're making a decision on a series of tasks that you need to complete. Generally speaking, you are given a time frame to complete the task. Sometimes you're given the necessary elements of the scenario. Maybe you have a car, maybe you have a ship, maybe you have a boat, maybe you have an airplane, maybe you have an helicopter, maybe you have a house. Those are elements in the scenario. The other elements or subjects that you may also have will be people. You may have people, rich people, poor people, sick people, healthy people, babies, women, men, old people, young people. Those are all elements of this scenario. Your ability to identify these elements will help you structure your answers and show that you have situational awareness. Oh my God, I love what I do. All right. I love the fact that I'm actually sharing this with you, and I hope that you're still watching this to this point. But here's the thing. When you look at your scenario, your ability to identify the elements that are present, the subjects that are present, the old, the young, the rich, the poor, the Muslim, the Christian, whatever that may be, the sick, the healthy, right? And knowing the time, knowing the people, the other things, the resources that you've been provided to administer whatever needs to be done will show that you have situational awareness. And when you are then talking about this with your group members or your team members, and you're able to, off the cuff, mention the important elements at the right time, at the right pace, shows situational awareness. But here's something that you need to keep in mind: the safety hazards and the risks that are involved. Because in all of this, there would always be something that is not safe, or that is risk, that has some risk, or that is just not conducive for that environment at that time. Something will be happening. A good example is the weather is going bad. A good example is you're running low on fuel. A good example is the fire is starting. A good example is you don't have the necessary equipment, or the equipment is dying. Things like that are the scenarios or things that are changing in that time. How do we talk about situational awareness? Knowing what has happened, what is happening, what will happen. If you have these 3 factors together as it relates to those elements, then you are golden. All right, moving on. I'm going to come back to T-DOTA. All right. The next thing is the workload management. Think about time, think about tasks, think about turns. Let me go over that again. Time, in the sense that how much time do you have, and how much time do you have to resolve that particular problem at that time, at that phase. Do you have 2 minutes to try to resolve it because you only have 5 minutes left, and you need 3 minutes to be able to decide and deliberate on what to do? Excuse me. The other thing is tasks. What tasks need to be done? What are the things that need to be achieved? If you can understand what you need to do based on the time that is available, then you can divide the workload, or divide the conversation or the task in a way that everybody can participate. If there's something that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to group exercises, is the ability to participate or show their side of contribution. And that is not what you want. Do as much as you can to show that you are pulling your weight in the group. Don't be the person with the least amount of contribution. Let's put it that way. All right. And I know I'm feeling a bit dramatic, but honestly, I'm so passionate about these things, and I want you to be as passionate as you can be with these things as well. Don't leave that group being the least person that has contributed to whatever you guys have to do, whether it's through the speech or the communication part, whether it's through the group effort of trying to resolve the problem, whether it's through the whatever task that may be, right? Try to be on the again, just don't leave that group feeling like, man, I didn't do anything. That's not what I want for you. So turn in the sense that share your opinions, back it up with facts. Don't just share an opinion based on, it's an opinion, because opinion is free. Everyone has got an opinion. If you ask a mad person, he's got an opinion, or she's got an opinion. But you want your opinion or your statement to be backed with facts. And that's where having this situational awareness come in. Now, let's move on. Communication. Again, that's all you've been doing all through. So try to have a good communication structure. Talk about the things that you need to talk about in an effective manner. Then, of course, decision making, problem solving. That is important. You need to make a decision. Don't run out of time in these situations. So let's talk about TDODA real quick. When it comes to your group exercise, one of the things that often recommended is the TDODA acronym. Okay. And I'm going to write diagnosis, decision, options, decision, and action, and I need to move this down again, results. Okay. Why is this important? If you do not have a structured manner in which you want to go through whatever scenario or problem you've been given, you are likely to get tangled in the process, especially as a group. So if there's something that I encourage you to do, is to have this acronym down in your mind really well, or maybe you have a paper and a pen and paper and kind of just write what the diagnosis of the decision is, even if it's just a one word, right? The options you have, list them out. The decision that it was made, right? And why, put it down. All right. The action and maybe some of the problems that impeded your ability to put that action into use, because that may happen, right? Put it down. And of course, think about the results that was achieved or that you're able to achieve with that action that was taken. Now, it's always important to know that things can always change along the way. So you may need to always go back to your options and kind of go through this cycle all over again based on the amount of time you have. That is really all I wanted to share with you guys. I know it's been a little long than anticipated, but I felt like a lot of you have been talking about sharing, how to best prepare for some of these things. And I hope that this would help you. I hope that you're able to achieve your success. Again, I appreciate your feedback. Leave your comments in the comment section below. You can always talk to me on Instagram. I'd love to see you when you achieve your own goals as well. Take care.